You are watching Places. Every Tuesday, we bring you an insightful look into fascinating events from all around the world. The richest country you've never heard of. Welcome to Alux.com, the place where future billionaires come to get inspired. Hello, Aluxers, and welcome back to another great video. This time we're taking you on a journey across the world as we explore one of the richest countries you've probably never heard of. Introduction. Let's take a look at this map. Could you name this country right here? We guess not. This tiny coastal country is called Brunei. Maybe the name rings a bell now. It's one of the richest countries in the world, ruled with an iron fist by a legacy billionaire who just so happens to have the largest collection of luxury cars in the world. But we'll get into that later in the video. Brunei is situated on the northern shore of the island of Borneo in the South China Sea, surrounded on three sides by Malaysia, and has a total population of less than 500,000 people. The most interesting part is that it's a total welfare state. Basically, the Sultan pays for everything, from education to healthcare and most other living expenses of its citizens. Yes, the Sultan is that rich. But where is all this money coming from? How did Brunei get so rich? Basically, the country was minding its own business until 1929, when they realized they have one of the largest reserves of oil and natural gas in the world, especially considering their very small geographical footprint. Brunei is the third largest oil producer in Southeast Asia, averaging about 180,000 barrels per day. Oil and gas make up for 99% of the country's export and 70% of its domestic product. It's one of the greatest examples of a mono-economy, where the country's entire financial situation is dependent on the price of a single commodity. You know the Shell company? Much of Shell oil comes from offshore drilling platforms in Brunei. They have a 50-50 deal set in place on the exploitation and distribution of the natural resources in the area, which proved to be incredibly lucrative. This allows the royal family to basically cover almost every expense needed to keep the country running. And the native population of Brunei is living quite well. 2 in 3 people in Brunei own a car. The literacy rate is one of the highest in the world, with over 93% of the population being literate. In Brunei, there's no income tax. Actually, there are no taxes for that matter whatsoever. If a citizen needs a loan to buy a new home, the bank grants it on behalf of the Sultan at 0% interest. The per capita GDP in Brunei was $79,000 US in 2015, ranking them in the top 10 in the world. Just to put that into perspective, the US was sitting at $59,900 in the same year. The country's GDP per capita peak was in 1979, approximately $134 US. That's when they cashed in and have been incredibly rich ever since. Speaking of, there's even a joke going around the diplomatic circles saying the second largest export of the country is empty soda bottles, because they import Coca-Cola into the country. They drink it and need to send the bottles back. We know, hilarious, but over half the children in the country are considered obese. And all jokes aside, the threat of oil running out has been a major concern for the royal family, and for years, they've been looking to diversify their portfolio, acquiring multiple hotels all around the world, and trying to figure out how they can produce glass and pharma products within its borders. But with that said, who is this family that's rich enough to take care of an entire country? The Sultan and family. The royal family has been ruling Brunei for the last 600 years. The current ruler is Hassanal Bolkiah. a controversial figure who's been at the helm of the country since 1967, making him the second longest ruling monarch after Queen Elizabeth. He's also the country's Prime Minister, Finance Minister, Foreign Affairs and Trade Minister, Superintendent of Police, Defense Minister and Commander of the Armed Forces, and even Chancellor of the National University. However, he's been a very controversial figure, and we've mentioned him on our channel before. He loves luxury like nobody else. Where do we even start? His estimated personal net worth is somewhere around $27.7 billion, and we say estimated because it's hard to put a clear line where he's spending out of his own pocket and when he's acting on behalf of his country. He's made a different fund for the country's needs. His personal fortune is growing at $147 per second. Let that sink in. Since you've started watching this video, his fortune has grown by at least $50,000, and by the end, he'll have enough to buy another Ferrari. Technically, he has the most expensive house in the world, a 1,700-room palace where he lives, with an estimated value of $1.8 billion. He owns one of the most expensive private jets in the world, what is probably the most expensive private car collection in the world, along with his solid gold Rolls-Royce. His driveway to the palace is paved in literal gold, and when he likes jewelry, he doesn't buy a piece, he buys the entire brand. Speaking of, we've commissioned some artwork to illustrate the underlying motif of our channel, and the result are these 4 incredible posters. It was a really fun project to do, and if you want to get any of them, you can go to Alux.com/art. We love the end product, and if you decide to buy any of them, snap a pic of you in the poster and tag us on Instagram. We'll be sure to give you a shout out in one of our future videos. Even better, you can wear the art if you want to purchase it on a hoodie or a sweatshirt. Now, let's get back to this controversial billionaire. He's had quite an interesting love life. The Sultan married his first cousin, Princess Saleha, who he's still married to today. Considering Brunei is a Muslim country, up to 4 wives is allowed, despite the general population being monogamous. The Sultan's second wife was a flight attendant for Royal Brunei Airlines. The cost of the wedding was over $30 million. Michael Jackson alone was paid $25 million to perform 3 times. He later on divorced his second wife in 2003 and removed all of her royal statuses. 2 years later, the Sultan married a TV show host 33 years younger than himself. Another expensive wedding, as you could expect. However, in 2010, the Sultan divorced her and even took away her monthly allowance. All of these wives brought him 12 children, who are also getting married these days, with tens of millions of dollars spent on their celebrations. You know how normal weddings have an overpriced flower bouquet? In their case, the bouquet was made entirely out of diamonds. Then there's the Sultan's brother, a playboy who mismanaged $15 billion from the state fund, made a run for it around the world, partying and living an unimaginable lifestyle while he was in charge of the treasury. What do you do when you love women and money? You try to blow through as much of the money as possible. You buy a really expensive yacht, name it Tits, and then buy 2 smaller boats and name each Nipple 1 and Nipple 2 respectively. Have a harem of women with you at all times and start buying houses and properties wherever your heart desires. After an international manhunt, his brother was brought home and forced to give back what was left of the money he stole. But you know, what's $15 billion between brothers? Controversy. Brunei is a Muslim country, with the country's conservative right wing rising more and more in influence. In 2014, the Sultan took a stance by criminalizing homosexuality and sentencing it to 10 years in prison. However, as of 2019, he's taken another stance by sentencing homosexuals to death by stoning. The same punishment goes for extramarital sex and anal sex. The news shocked the world that in 2019, stoning someone to death is seen as an option, no matter the crime, but even more so for something like same-sex marriage. The West stood witness to how Brunei decided to adopt old ideologies and implement Sharia law to its fullest. Social media reacted by calling for a boycott of the following hotel chains, which are owned by the royal family of Brunei. Conclusion: a small country the size of the state of Delaware has seen for almost a century incredible wealth from a single commodity, so much so it allowed the ruler to transform it into a welfare state and for he and his family to enjoy unlimited wealth. Money doesn't change people, it shows who they really are. What do you think about Brunei, Aluxers? Should a country like Brunei exist today? Is there a future for monarchies ruled by wealth so fragile that the price of a commodity can drastically alter the fate of the country? We're really interested to hear back from you, and we'll make sure to go through the comments and jump into the conversation. And as a thank you for watching this video all the way to the end, you get a bonus. Here it is. The Sultan of Brunei owns the largest private car collection in the world. He's had hangars built to hold his collection. Every time one of the big luxury car brands launches a new model, one example is purchased by default by the royal family and sent to Brunei to be added to his personal collection. Thank you for spending some time with us, Aluxers. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss another video. We also handpicked these videos for you to watch next. As always, the conversation continues on social media. Thanks again, and we can't wait to have you back tomorrow.